Well, hi, and welcome to my shop here. It is July. It's July 3rd. And another day with this radio. So I've been changing out capacitors, and I've gotten some improvement, but it still has kind of a hashy sound to it, this radio. So I think I'm going to go for another set of capacitors in here, and you can see 3 of them in the image there. These red ones here, there's 4 of them. There's another one back here. So wasn't quite sure what these were, although quite suspicious they were capacitors until yesterday I took a close look at one of them. You can see the capacitor rating right on it. So capacitors they are. And these 3 appear to be the same size. This one back here looks a little bigger. So these are molded capacitors. Molded capacitors don't have a good reputation for a long life. So we're going to take one of these out and test it and see what we can see about it. And we'll make a decision about the other 3. But chances are I'm going to change them all because I don't really have any other plan of action here except that. So let's get one of these out here. We'll go after this one. It looks easiest to get out. Don't you love the sound of my lamps? Jeepers creepers. Time for some new lights. Time for new everything in here, actually. New cameras, new everything, but can't afford to do that. I wish I could. I think I can do a little. I think my cameras are a little worn out. That's. I imagine I beat them up in here pretty good. I drop them on the floor, knock them over. There we go. Oh, didn't quite come out. Yellow wire. That's holding it here. There we go. Okay, got enough lead to test it. We're going to test it with the first with the electronic tester. So I'm reading the size on it here. .05. I believe that's what that says. Let's find out. The shop is filled with plastic smoke here. I don't like it. Okay. $115 nanofarads. So that'd be like a 0.01. 149, 150. ESR 31 ohms, and the loss 5. So what this I think is telling me is it's reading way high, 0.15. Whoops, instead of didn't I say 0.01? I find these testers of all sorts get fooled. 0.05 has an M after it. Well, let's try it on a more stressful test here. We'll give it a test on here. So far, I think what I've proven is this is bad. I think that test over there. But this is actually a better way to test them using this device. To test these old capacitors. The reason is the old radios they're in, not this one. Not this radio, but the old tube radios put a lot of voltage pressure on these, so it's good to imitate that pressure and see what happens. Now in this radio the pressure can't be more than a couple of volts. It's It's only got 3 batteries. So I'm going to hit it with a pretty heavy pressure here, 50 volts. Right on. So you're looking at the eye here, and you can see a pie-shaped shadow at the bottom. It's very hard to see in the camera, but it's there. Let's see. I hit the switch. That pie-shaped thing should return, just like you see it now. There it comes. About halfway. My imagination, or is it closing? It's closing. So I seldom hold this test on for any length of time. Well, 50 volts sets up a leak current through this capacitor enough for this tester to reflect it here. Is that so bad that under this radio, with only a couple of volts across it, the amount of current leaking through it would be enough to upset things? I don't know, frankly. Let's look at this under the close-up camera and just read all this. Read all the stuff. Read all about it. That's what we're going to do here. Now, it would look like this camera is stalled. Let me see if I can uninstall it. There we are. Okay, what do you say? PS1S5 100 slash .05M. Well, you know, 0.05 is what I get out of this. NPR. Yeah, doesn't help at all. If we look at the quality of this, this is actually pretty good. This is actually pretty good. This is a potted. Looks to me like they potted it. So they have this plastic case. The capacitor goes inside, and then they put in some kind of a fluid here that, you know, like a melted plastic or something. Epoxy, something that goes solid afterwards. So it's not quite this is like a higher quality of molded capacitor. I don't have any other options with this radio at this point that make any sense to me to go ahead and do, other than change those capacitors as much as... Yeah, the reading was way high. And that resistance thing, the ESR, way high. Okay, gonna change them. Change them all. Okay, so I managed to find replacements, 3.05s and a 0.1 all 100 volt capacitors here. Good, so I'm going to stick them in. We'll see what happens to the radio after this. Okay, got 3 of them done. I'm on to the last one here. A little warm up here still. Came out very easy. This is the big one, 0.1. I checked these capacitors I'm putting in. I checked them to make sure they were the size I thought they were, and they are. Just Get one leg through. Get the other leg. So the weather here has changed a lot. It's gone from just endless beautiful days to gray, rainy days, one after another. I can't complain though, because look what's happened to my fellow Canadians. If you're not from Canada, you may have heard of the hot temperatures, and you may have even heard about the record being set in a small town out in British Columbia, I believe it is. A small town called Lytton. Temperature there got to 49.5 degrees C. The next day, a wildfire came through and burned the whole town. The whole town is burned down. People lost their lives. People fleeing for their lives from this town because the fire got there with virtually no warning. Smoke in the town. 15 minutes later, houses on fire. It was so unfortunately, that poor town that set this record is essentially gone now. And it's terrible, isn't it? Yes, sirree. Okay, so we have all the capacitors in now. I gotta cut off the excess there. I forget to do that. There we are. Okay, we're ready for a test. I will add these to the bucket of dead soldiers. Look at them all in there now. So let's see what we got. Make sure the antenna's hanging out here. I don't want it to be shorted, that's all. Okay, switch is off. Put the power on here. Okay, here we go. 3 capacitors, eh? Okay, 4.5 volts. Here we go. Well, that's a good start. Well, it's still working. Well, it sounds exactly the same. So those capacitors didn't make any difference. They're worn out anyway, they gotta go, but they're not making any difference in the performance of the radio. So where do we stand now? They've done essentially all the capacitors in here. Electrolytic, molded, everything but these tiny guys down in here, which I believe are highly reliable. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those in there. I think I'd make a mistake if I went after those. Can't be sure, of course. Something is out of order here. I can't be sure what it is. Pretty sure all the capacitor changes I've done have been a positive thing for the radio. I don't think I've introduced any problems, so maybe now is the time to whip out the voltmeter and start looking for a voltage that's off, and that might lead to a bad resistor in there. Something like that might happen. But so far, unless for crying out loud, this is what this radio sounds like, which I can't believe it. Come, they were playing music on the sports channel. I must have bumped the tuning there. I certainly got a lot of noise in me if I get too close to the radio. Well, it really sounds to me like a transistor's in cutoff, because it has this cutoff sound to it. So I don't think we got there yet, but I guess I'm just going through the process of eliminating everything that could be causing trouble, and trying to do the cheap, easy things first, and work my way into the more difficult parts. Like, for instance, a transistor is a little more difficult to replace. That's all. That's why I'm staying clear of those things. Do I have an inkling that a transistor itself has gone sour in here? Not really. Don't know. All we're left with now, yeah, resistors, those little capacitors, 7 transistors, these 2 transformers, which I really have no reason to think they're implicated in this. Okay, well, every day in every way it gets a little bit better. See you tomorrow.